Welcome to the Gearbox Podcast, where we dive deep into the dynamic world of automotive repair and ownership. I'm your host, Jimmy Purdy, an experienced technician turned shop owner with a passion for sharing insights, stories, and conversations with industry leaders. This is the Gearbox Podcast. The typical technician thing, you just start ripping stuff apart.
Exactly.
Turn up the sound. How's that sound?
Yeah, sounds good. We're good.
Try to eliminate some of that background noise, but...
Well, we are in the dungeon, right?
The glass cage of emotions. It's like a fishbowl, huh? Everyone walking by and they're tapping on the window all day.
Do you ever feel like you just want to kind of just do this?
Just
when they
start floating by.
Just start giving the fish.
Do the fish mouth.
Yeah. We're here. Here we go.
Well, cool. Joe, thanks for coming on.
Absolutely, Jimmy. I appreciate you having me, man.
Yeah, I'm excited about what you got going on here because the theme of Apex 2024 for the Gearbox podcast so far has been a lot of coaching, a lot of training. And I think that's what it needs to be because that's where we're at right now.
Right.
We're here to have a good time. We're in Vegas, right? You got to work. You got to play hard. You got to work hard, right?
Yeah.
So I think learning something new and like walking around in the booths and getting free swag. Yeah, of course. Like there's got to be some fun stuff that we're doing. And I think like most shops need to be like that too. Like you need to train, you need to make money, you need to take time aside to have a barbecue, do fun stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, culture's important, I think, at any shop, right?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, I think that's what you're speaking to is just the culture of it. You know, we can have a culture of, hey, we're just here to make profits, earn a living, make money. But man, we spend a lot of time at work with the people we work with, right? Oh, more so sometimes than our families.
That's true. So one of the things is like that we have a lot of is shop owner coaching. Mm-hmm. We have service advisor coaching, but you're coming up with something new here, right? And it's basically therapy for technicians.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's it.
For the ones
good.
that are making the money in the shop, the ones that are in the back grinding away, and it is the job that you're just kind of shoved in the bottom of the boat, right? And just keep the engine running, right? Like we're up here looking pretty in our whites, right?
Yeah, just keep fixing
and just keep fixing, keep grinding, right? And you're kind of shoved in the side and forgotten. Yeah. And I mean, they're people too, right? Like,
absolutely.
Not to go so like participation trophy on it, but I mean, at the same token, employee technician in particular turnover is huge right now.
Oh yeah,
and not to mention just getting them into the field. And if you got someone that's in the field and you're not treating them right, and they're doing the work, right? It's like they're just going to go somewhere else. Yeah. And sometimes it's like, well, they're just going to HVAC or they're just going to plumbing. It's like, well, wait a second. Let's take a step back here. What is it that they're doing differently for those technicians going into those fields that keeps them there, right?
Yeah.
And I like what you said. So I'll let you take the floor from there as far as what you're doing with it.
Well, I appreciate that. So, at Limitless Leadership, we are, a leadership company that tailors to the automotive. But I think more so that the gap that we kept seeing for automotive technicians in particular is, everybody's trying to figure out a career path for them. There's lots of different markets out there and different companies that are trying to show technicians the technology that, the automotive industry usually explodes about every 5 years, right? 5 to 10 years, there's usually a huge release of technology. And as we begin to kind of peel the layers of the onion, so to speak, we realized that there was a huge need for technician coaching. I equated back in the day, I think you and I talked earlier about, life coaches. Life coaches came out, and then you had business coaches and finance coaches. And it's like, why not technicians? Why do the technicians need to be the forgotten ones, so to speak? And it's not like that everywhere, but I think we've really tried to start to turn the industry's mindset on what a technician is, right?
And this is beyond just what a PO300 is, or what how to do an evap or how to do AC diagnosis. That's not what we're talking about here, right?
No. That's diagnostics and training for technology is certainly important, right? But that's really not our core focus. Our core focus is to take these guys and basically give them a platform, right? Give them a voice. A lot of times technicians just don't have a voice. They feel like they're in this void, and they've got all these emotions and all these thoughts and ideas about maybe where they work or how things could work better. But in a lot of instances, they really feel like their voice falls on deaf ears. And so basically, we're trying to fill that gap And the way that we're filling that gap is that, we have a couple of different ways that we do it. We can certainly meet with them on a weekly basis, have a Zoom call, and that's pretty effective. And we have several clients that we're doing that with. But I think what we've really kind of stumbled upon as we've kind of built this out is we've got like a 13-week coaching program for technicians where we introduce different resources for them to become that next level, right? So if you're a GS and you get involved with us and you want to be that A technician, we're really trying to carve out a path and give them some mentoring and some coaching in the technology field of the automotive industry to bring them along, right? There's so many training opportunities, so many videos that you can watch, and a lot of times it just becomes white noise, right? Mm-hmm. And it's hard to discern really what is good training, what is adequate training, what is not so good training, right? I mean, we've all sat in the 3-hour, parched speech, give me some soda and a snack 3 hours after I've worked 12 hours a day.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be doing a webinar later today, and it is about training and the importance of it. And more importantly, the importance of being a lifelong learner. A lot of business owners, I think, don't really realize that there's a lot of statistical data about continuing education for technicians, right? And there's so much that a technician misses if they're not continuing to educate themselves about what's coming out next.
Do you think you're helping finding their why, right? Because it's like with shop owners and shop coaching, like that's the biggest thing. When you're trying to find a coach, you're trying to find help. Like, well, what are you trying to do? Why? And do you think the pitfall for technicians is like, well, I can fix cars and I'm making a paycheck, so why would I go back to training?
Yeah, I think helping them discover their why is super important, right? If you don't know why you're getting up every day and doing what you're doing, then why are you doing it, right? If you don't have a passion for it, and many guys lose their passion. I know a lot of technicians that have gotten out of the industry because of the culture of the shop they're in, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Because that culture didn't foster any kind of clarity or direction, right?
Yeah.
It's just, hey, here's your stall, where's your tools, here's your first 3 tickets, right? One of the things that we are working with heavily with technicians is, what does the onboarding look like for a technician, right? I mean, think about it for a minute. I remember my first technician job. I went in, interviewed, they made me an offer, I accepted it, and literally the day I rolled my box in, I started working, right?
Yeah.
There was no, hey, here's the shop tour, here's the people in the shop you're going to be working with. These are our parts delivery people. This is where your parts are going to be. This is where, the diagnostic equipment is kept. None of that happens in the automotive realm when it comes to technicians.
For the majority.
For the most part.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk exclusively because not every shop is like that. But the majority of shops and shop owners, they don't even have an onboarding plan for a technician. And I think that in and of itself can set these technicians up for long-term success, right? We know there's huge turnover. There's a lack of technicians out there. And so we can't keep beating the same drum and doing it the same way, expecting the same results, right?
Yeah.
I think they have a word for that.
Yeah, insanity, right?
Yeah, I think it's insanity.
If you're expecting different results anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you can expect the same damn results if you keep doing the same damn thing.
Right. But you're still going to get the same damn thing.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and on the onboarding thought there too, one of the things that's missed, and I think we missed it too in our shop, is not just the shop tour, where the tools are and where the bathroom is, but more of that. We're like more deeper than that. Hey, if you ever need to talk, the office is open, the door's open, right? Hey, when we do these one-on-one meetings every week, it's not for us to tell you that you're doing something wrong. We're going to bring up things that are going to help you grow. But it's really difficult to twist that aspect and say, hey, we're sitting down every week to help you grow when all you're doing is showing them negative, right?
Right.
And that's what we want to do. Like we want to do, or I want to do as the owner, because that's what we're good at. We're good at finding the inefficiencies and saying, hey, this is what we found. Everything else is great. And you kind of go right over the top of that and just dive in like, so what do we do to fix this, right? And not being clear during the hiring process, like this is what we're going to do. Right. We're going to do this for your own benefit to help you grow. And we've missed it. We missed the ball 100% on that.
I couldn't agree more. I think setting expectations early, right? setting expectations. And, that seems like a simple statement, right? Oh, it's a technician. The expectation is they're going to fix cars.
Right.
Well, technicians do a lot more than just fix cars, right? They have interactions with the customers. They have interactions with the front counter staff. They have interactions with other technicians. And unless you are inherently built to where you can communicate effectively, that's where a lot of breakdowns in the shop happen immediately, is because expectations are unknown. It's hard to sit down and have a one-on-one with a new team member, 30, 60, 90 days in, when the team member doesn't know what the expectations are. So you come at them with, hey, you're not meeting our expectations. Well, if you never set clarity and direction of what those expectations were in the beginning, how can you hold them to a standard that they're not aware of?
That's very true.
And I think in many cases so far, in my experience, that's been one of the single most important conversations that I've had with technicians.
Wow.
Is, hey, I don't even know what they expect of me. I mean, I know they want me to fix cars.
Well, it's a given.
But
it's a given, right?
yeah, it's like
you got paid at the end of the week and the car's fixed, it didn't come back. Yeah.
But what else,
Yeah.
right? And then when we have these rubs, if you want to call them that, in the shop where something happens, now we're trying to course correct something that they themselves didn't know that they did anything wrong in the first place.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's setting them up already right off the bat with this mentality of the front half of the shop versus the back half of the shop. Right.
Oh man. Yeah.
And I think all of us in the industry know exactly what I'm talking about. Right. It's
Yep.
like that wall that, it's not visible, but it's definitely there. Right. And you're constantly hitting it between the front half and the back half. And I think that's where onboarding can really help build trust between, we're always talking about building trust with the customer, right? Build trust. But you mentioned something earlier, and I want to circle back to it because I think it's really important. And when we expect the technician to be able to do a DVI, do an inspection, do a diagnostics, and convey that and articulate it to the front counter staff so that they can sell the job, right? And so in the sales process, we're always teaching, which technicians will overhear these conversations, that, hey, you don't just want to give the consumer the bad stuff that's wrong with their car. You want to tell them that, hey, your air filter looks great, serpentine belt looks great. However, during that inspection, we also noticed that, your fluids or XYZ part didn't look that great, right?
Right.
And so we teach that on the front half, but we don't teach that and instruct that or set that as an expectation on the back half.
Right.
And so they're constantly finding what's wrong, but they're not really getting a chance to share what's right. And I know that might seem simple, but that kind of behavior carries over into how they feel about the voice they have to be able to share with the owner.
That's interesting.
Of things.
Yeah,
right?
that's interesting.
So we're ingraining this behavior that's counterintuitive to what we're expecting them to do in the back half.
That's some deep stuff, and that resonates with me because as of just recently, we've reset our expectations to make sure that the advisors have 3 good pictures of the vehicle. Right. And we're like, hey guys, when you're doing your DVI, let's keep, we have a limit of pictures that we want to do. So make sure at least 3 of those show a good serpentine belt, show something that looks like it's recently replaced or something that's still in good shape. And they say, why the hell would we do that? And it's like, well, it's part of the sales process. It's just a psychological thing. But what you brought up is I hadn't even thought about. That changes. That's a dynamic shift in the technician's mind as well. Right? They're not just looking at every car as a shit box, right? I wouldn't fix anything on this thing, right? Well, we'll try to find 3 good things on it, and that'll change your perspective on when you repair the vehicle. And I never even thought about that from that standpoint.
I tell you, it really changes the technician's perspective on exactly what you said. Hey, that's a shit box.
At home too, right?
Right.
Like everywhere, because they're going to go home. They're going to be looking for everything that's wrong.
Yep. Exactly. And I don't know, we talked about there's a certain characteristics I think that flat rate technicians exhibit, right? So I'll give you an example for those who may not know. So I cook and I clean at the same time, right? So I'm trying to be as efficient as possible. And so basically I'm flat rate cooking and cleaning when I'm in the kitchen.
I can understand that.
Because that's how I am at work when I was a technician. And so I think where it resonates and where shop owners need to understand is that technicians that truly understand and do flat rate, that is inherent in who they are. So when we can take lessons that they can take away from the shop and they can make them applicable at home, now we're affecting change of the person, not just the processes.
That's
and
huge.
I think sometimes we're so focused on changing the processes that really what we need to do is not change the person, but we need to educate the person. We need to give them tools that are successful not only under the hood, but at home too. And I think that's where our technician coaching really comes in, is because, at the end of the day, I just want people to be better humans after I've had an interaction with them than before, right? And there's a story about everybody carries around marbles, right? A bucket of marbles. And every interaction that you have with somebody, you're either taking some of their marbles or you're giving some of your marbles. And so if you're always giving and you're never receiving, it's going to get kind of weighty and you're going to run out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we think of technicians sometimes, at least this is my understanding, I don't want to assume for everybody, but I think we think of technicians as these guys that are in the back of the shop that are hardened, that, they just grind it out. But at the end of the day, they're dads, they're sons. They have a personal life and a personal characteristic about them that needs to be fostered just as much as at work.
Well, and as a former technician, right?
Yeah.
You can understand the amount of time you spend in your own head, right?
Oh, yeah.
As an advisor and as you're talking to people every day, you get to vent a lot of stuff out, right?
Oh, yeah.
And it's not all like a customer comes in, you just like all of a sudden tell them everything about what's going on last night with you and your wife. But as you're going through your sales process, and I don't know if you've worked the counter, but I assume you have.
I have.
And you've gone through the process, right? So you start talking to people and all of a sudden they say something and then you use that to relate to something going on in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not putting a fake leg on, like you're being genuine with people because that's actually what works, right?
Yeah.
You realize over time, like the more you fake it, the more people pick up on it. So you just start letting your life out to these random strangers, and all of a sudden you're venting. You don't even realize it.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of emotional burden that gets lifted off your shoulders. Mm-hmm. As a technician, you're just in your head all day long, right? Yeah. You get in a fight with your wife, then you go to work, and then your head is buried for the next 6, 7, 8 hours.
Yeah.
Maybe you would say, hey, to your but then you're thinking the tech next to you, he don't want to hear what you got going, right? And you just assume no one wants to hear your problems.
Yep.
And then a day goes by, and no one wants to hear your problems. A week goes by, no one wants to hear your problems. And then there's more problems. It's like, yeah, but no one wants to hear it. And it's just that vicious cycle of being stuck in your head. No one cares about you. No one wants to hear what you're going through. I mean, I've been there.
Yeah.
I
think anybody that's turned wrenches for any length of time knows exactly what you're talking about, right?
Yeah. They're
like, yep, that been there, done that. and really, you touched on something there that has really been shocking to me. I think I've gotten just as much out of my client interactions with technicians as they have, quite honestly.
Yeah.
And many of them, at the end of the conversation, it's like, wow, man, I'm just happy I had somebody to talk to.
Yeah.
Right. At the end of the day, it's like sometimes you just need somebody to talk to that doesn't. I don't have any weight on either side of the conversation, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
My opinions at the end of the day to that person on the other end, they don't matter. My opinions don't matter, right? But my empathy and my understanding of the position they're in, that's what matters to them.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, right? I can give them resources. I can tell them, yeah, that's a great training to go to. Or, hey, if you want to become a shop foreman and this is where you're at currently, here's 6 steps to get to that place, right? Here's the things. But at the end of the day, the most satisfying thing is when somebody says, man, I feel better. I had a chance to unload that, right?
Yeah.
And then it turns into almost they feel like they have an advocate, right? And the reason why that's important is because we're teaching those, you mentioned one-on-ones. we're teaching them how to embrace one-on-ones, right? How to do a debrief, how to lead when they're not in charge, right? Because
that's a big one there.
Yeah, I think technicians don't understand the influence that they have sometimes in the shop. And if they are trained and coached to utilize that influence to the betterment of the culture of the shop, man, they're not going to want to go somewhere else and work. Why would you want to?
Yeah. Right?
And so we're going to cover some of that. Hopefully people sign up for the webinar. I know we've had a bunch of signups, but it's an exciting time, but it really is different. It's getting guys that normally don't talk to open up and talk, but more importantly, to share where do you want to be in 5 years, right? I can't tell you how many of the clients that I've talked to so far is, I've never even thought about where I want to be in 5 years. And nobody's ever asked me that question.
Yeah.
It's like, as a shop owner and a former shop owner myself, I missed a lot, when it comes to helping my team members and former employees really grow themselves as a person and a professional, right? Because it's not just single fold, it's twofold. And now I think I have the opportunity and the growth to be able to pour back into a community that I took marbles from for so long. It's time for me to give some back, and that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, and I mean, I like that. Jocko says the same thing with the bank, right? So you probably heard the thing that you gotta make more. You gotta have more. What do you call it?
Emotional deposits.
Well, the deposits, but you got more expenses than deposits, right?
Exactly.
And you got to make sure the bank doesn't get too full, and you want to make sure that your expenses don't get too low either.
Exactly. The analogies, and I love Jocko too. So, but, it is a balance, and I think, so many times, even us as men and ladies, we deplete our resources rather quickly. Mm-hmm. And we don't really get the opportunity or take the opportunity to refill them, right? To re-energize.
Well, we don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And I think you brought that up was you work as a tech, right? Every day. And all of a sudden years go by and you've become a great technician, but you're like, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
Right. And then like, well, what do I do? I used to really enjoy doing this. I don't really enjoy, doing this job anymore.
Yeah.
Right. You get burned out.
Yep.
And then, like, the one thing that you used to go to work to do to vent, like the one thing that was your thing is now not your thing because now it's your job.
Yeah.
And you're required to do it. And it's so hard to pull back and say, well, what the hell do I do now?
Yeah.
I hate what I do. I'm burned out. I don't want to do this anymore. This used to be my escape. Now it's not. And I feel like that's so far down the road. I don't know how you pull that back in.
Yeah. I don't know that there's an easy answer, but I do know that if us in the industry, right, the influencers, the guys that have been doing it for a long time, if we don't pause and really look at what's coming down the line for the next generation, then we're just going to keep churning out the same thing that we've been doing, right? Which is people that come into the industry, work themselves basically, to death, so to speak, wear their bodies out, and don't have something to look forward to. Right. And I think we as influencers and leaders in the industry, I personally feel like we have a responsibility to the younger generation coming up in the current workforce to say, hey, don't follow the same path. Right. Don't crawl in that hole. There's other opportunities. Right. I remember making a promise to myself that I didn't want to be turning wrenches at 45. Right. And I know we're not on film, but I'll describe it. There was a older gentleman in a dealership, and his hands were knurled, right? He had been turning wrenches for like 30 years, and hands were all knurled. He was at the same dealership his entire career, went through, technician, service writer, service director, and then full circle. And when I met him, he was at the end of his career, and he was the porter, he was the driver, right? Courtesy driver. And I remember thinking to myself as a young technician, man, I don't want to be doing this at 45 and not be able to enjoy my life and have my hands be like that.
Right.
And it's like, helping technicians understand you got to take care of yourself. You got to take care of your body. but more important, you got to take care of your mental health, right? And, I know that some people are one way or the other, but you know what? Mental health is what it is. The reason why we recognize it today is because people just didn't talk about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think what we're doing at Limitless is we're giving these technicians a platform to talk about things that they need to talk about. But we're also giving them opportunity and resources to be able to grow themselves professionally and personally. And, at the end of the day, if one single person comes back, 5, 10, 3 years, whenever, and says, hey, the fact that I got to talk to you guys, the fact that I got some coaching and training from you guys really made a difference, it's worth it.
The buy-in is really tough, right? So we try to do one-on-one meetings, and I've talked about that before, and that's a big thing, culture that we're trying to drive, right? But it's one thing to sit down with your employees or your techs, your advisors, and have a conversation. It's a completely different one to actually make it beneficial, right? Because sometimes you just can't say things to your employer that you would like to say, right? And I hate having the culture where I feel like that's not on the table, right? And I had a story about our recent hire, and I've said this before, but it helps to say it again. So she came in as a service advisor, and we have a real A personality advisor as well that works with her, and then I'm kind of an A personality at work. I like to just get there, keep my head down. I've done it for so long, like we had just talked about as a technician, that I found my own coping mechanisms. I put my head down, I fix a car, and that is enough self-gratification to fix a car that I'm good. The problem is when I don't fix it and I'm wrong, then it just spirals out of control. And don't talk to me, don't come near me. Like, it's me against the car right now, and it's toxic and it's bad, and I know, and I'm working on it.
Yeah.
Beyond that, right?
You become the tiger in the shop.
Like I understand. I'm not good at it, and I need to fix it. Okay, I'm not perfect, so that's one of my crutches. So we're kind of one and the same. And so with the new hire that came in, I'm very to the point. My wife's very nice. She likes to, make sure everything's laid out, set expectations, but she's gotten more straightforward as we've been together for so long that she's picked up on a lot of the way I am too. And so it was just funny because after about a week, the new hire had come into the office, and she said, hey, I gotta talk. And I was like, what's up? I'm not really comfortable being here if we're not allowed to have just a simple conversation about our weekend. And I'm like, what? She says, well, it just feels like it's just all about work here, and we can't just take a few minutes to have just a simple conversation, right? Well, the other advisor's got his head down. He's writing quotes. He's kind of just putting the vibe off. You don't have to say anything. I'm doing the same thing. I'm in and out of the office. I'm trying to get stuff organized, keep stuff going. I'm making sure she has enough to do, right? I'm trying to keep the text dispatch. So we're just all in our own little worlds, right? And I didn't even realize, it didn't even cross my mind that was how she felt. And bless her heart for bringing it up to us, right? Because it was immediately after that, I'm so sorry that we made you feel like that's not the culture that we have. Yeah. And she laughed it off, but I'm like that's not really funny though.
No,
because it was I'm not actively trying to be that person, but it just happens, And it was just interesting, and it was an interesting story, and it was an interesting interaction because, man, how many other people have come into our shop that we had to let go or they quit that had that same thought, and we didn't even we're just blind to it, right? It's just amazing, And it just brings up the same point. We have an open door policy, and we told, when we hired her, we say, if there's any problems, come in and talk to us. And that's just still not enough. Saying those words, luckily for us, she decided to come and tell us, right? So we could do something about it. But just because we said it's an open door policy doesn't mean that any of those other hires that we might have had years previous took advantage of that. They're just I'm not dealing with this crap. I can't even talk to my fellow employee about what happened last weekend, or about the game, or about whatever, So it's just interesting.
No,
it's a mindset.
It is a mindset. And I think it's funny you say that too, because I was just thinking in my head when you were telling that story, I was like, wow, that is a prime example of something I say all the time, which is your perception is not my reality. Right. And so and I say that because that is sometimes the whole set of a shop, right? Yeah. Head down, doing what needs to be done. And I think
no radio.
Yeah. Don't turn on a radio. Definitely don't do that. That would just be disastrous. But, and everybody's just, and all you've got is just the buzz of the workday, right? And I think it's important. And I think I've even seen some shops do this where I think two shops I've been in that I've toured over the last maybe 3 years, they have a bell and they'll ring it twice a day. And when that bell goes off, everybody stops. Everybody stops. Everybody meets in the middle of the shop and they'll do something funny. Like some of them will have Nerf guns and they'll pull out Nerf guns and start a Nerf gun fight. Right.
Wow.
And you're thinking, oh gosh, OSHA. Right. But I think what those shop owners were trying to do is just establish a mindset of, hey, you got to take a mental break at the end of the day. At some point during the day, you also need that mental break. I think it's, I talked to, and you probably did this as a technician, and as a shop owner, you probably still do it. You don't take a lunch, right?
Right.
I encourage those guys and gals, take your lunch, even if it's 30 minutes. The shop is not going to burn to the ground. You need that break. You need to get away from it. You need to get the noise out of your head and get off the property for at least 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Right. And all of these are things that we not only coach and teach and train, but we try to have that mindset of, it's people first, right? People is what makes businesses run, right? Profits and things like that are a result of the people. So we got to start putting the people first. If we put the people first, the processes and the profits, they'll take care of themselves, right? People want to do good for other people.
Most people.
I think inherently we're not evil, right? And I think most people want to do a good job. But a lot of people all they need is just that little extra hello in the morning, that little extra recognition, that little extra break in the afternoon, or that reminder that they need to take that break. And I think that's what our focus is really, is teaching shop owners, technicians, managers, service managers, whoever, to be people first. If a technician is person first, they're going to be more efficient. They're going to be more productive because they're going to start caring about not looking at that car as a car they have to repair, but they're going to start thinking about, hey, that's a family's car. That is a mother's car. That is my grandmother's car mindset, right? I used to tell people, hey, look, when I work on your car, I treat it like my own. And we kind of say that flippantly sometimes in the industry, right?
Right.
But I really think that's the mindset we've got to get people to start thinking of on the technician side. But we train them on the sales side to treat customers not like customers, but guests, right? We have that whole shift, years ago where we're not going to call them customers anymore. We're going to call them guests, right? It's the guest experience. And we did all these things front forward facing. Meanwhile, we left the shop alone just to fix cars. But they are people fixing cars that belong to people. So if we start training them and teaching them and coaching them how to have that mindset of people first, your hours are going to take care of themselves. You're going to get more productive. You're going to take less steps in the shop if you approach it from a people first mindset. And so that's really what we're trying to do and what we're geared for.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's huge, and it's definitely beyond thinking it as a family vehicle, but like really looking at it as an extension of that person, right? Because I think most technicians go in there and they understand the safety, and they understand. I mean, if they don't, they need to get out of the industry, right?
I agree.
Like they understand it's a safety thing and there's someone's family in there, but really as an extension of the family, right? I mean, because that's how most people look at their vehicle, right?
Yeah.
They have vehicles for 25, 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that. I've probably had 15 cars, in my senior year of high school, right? Like most of us techs do. But when I met my wife, it's like, and still to this day, her parents had the same car they've had for the last 20 years. And it's a huge decision. They come together as a family and they're like, this might be the next, and they do the whole and they're like, all right, that's the vehicle we're going to get. And he's like, the next one I get will be the last one I have for the rest of my life. And I'm like, what are you dying next year? Like,
Yeah, exactly.
What are you talking about, man?
Yeah, it's funny you say that because even statistically speaking, something over the last 4 years, well, I guess since COVID, that really hasn't happened in our industry. The average age of the vehicle on the road has gone up every year consistently since COVID. And that means people are keeping their vehicles longer, right? Which means we're going to have more opportunities to have lifelong customers with the same vehicle.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that's even another sign, if you will, for lack of a better word, of why technicians need to be poured into, because they need to understand the importance of, you go tell a technician, hey, 66% of the time after a guest visits my shop one time, 66% of the time, based on their experience, they won't be back a second time. And so I don't feel like, and I don't really like using that, but I don't want to say I don't think, because I think a lot, sometimes too much. I don't think technicians realize the role that they truly play in the guest experience, because it's so underplayed, because we're so forward focused about the customer experience, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. It's like an advisor selling a job out of their back pocket. A technician's looking at a car as if it's their 15th one on their property, right? Because every technician, as we just agreed, had 15 cars in their high school, right? So
yes, I'm guilty.
We cycle through cars like people cycle through shoes or clothes or whatever, right? It's just a second thought.
Yeah.
So they don't see that aspect of it, right? And it's the same thing as an advisor writing a quote out of their back pocket. Like, I couldn't spend that much money on a car. That's not your decision, man. You have no idea what their financial situation is. And it doesn't matter. They came here to get their car fixed. This is what it's going to cost to do it right. Yeah. Yes or no. And I think bringing up that technician aspect is a huge thing that's definitely missed in the shop. In our shop, I can tell you right now.
Yeah.
So bringing this thing to a close here.
Yeah, absolutely.
What does that process look like?
So
in a nutshell, your elevator pitch, how do we, how does it work, and how do we get in touch with it?
Yeah. So obviously you can reach us on social media, Limitless Leadership, Joe Hyde, Josh Parnell, Brandon Jones. We've kind of got three legs of the stool, if you will. So, Josh, man, I can't talk enough about him. He's a great leadership coach. Just absolutely fantastic. Brandon, when it comes to sales, I don't think I've even seen somebody that's better in the industry. And then, I'm not going to sit here and pat myself on the back. That's just not who I am. But, I've been doing this a long time. I worked in the field for quite some time as a technician. I still like to turn wrenches, right? If my body let me do it, I'd probably still be doing it because I do love it. I love the fix it part. So you can go on LinkedIn. You can go to the website. That's how you reach us. The process is, hey, it's a free call, right? Book a call with us. We'll go over your needs, your shop. We'll tell you all about us, what we do, what we have to offer. And then you make a decision. It's not a hard sales pitch. It's, hey, we're gonna give you some of our time, and we're gonna give you some invested information about your shop and what we can and can't do, and then we go from there. Right? It's just a conversation.
It's awesome, man. Well, Joe, I really appreciate you taking your time.
I appreciate you having me, man.
I really
do.
Busy day at Apex. I know you have plenty of other things you probably want to be doing, but this has been invaluable information.
Oh, no, this is good. This is good. And I appreciate you giving us a few minutes to be able to share kind of our vision and future what we want to see the industry do.
It's awesome. Well, we might be in touch soon. So
absolutely. Sounds good, man.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.